Hello, welcome to my podcast. Today I want to do real relationships and I want to talk about loneliness because we can be really lonely in our relationships for a variety of reasons. And I wanted to speak about that because if you're a person who's experiencing loneliness in your relationship or your partner has said they feel lonely living with you, there's things that you can do to fix it. Firstly, you need to understand that sometimes the loneliness comes from inside ourselves. Perhaps we grew up with parents who were emotionally distant, or we were a single child and we were actually literally lonely because we were alone, or even distant family, and then we would have felt lonely in that family. We would have bring that in now into this relationship. So just be aware of that. It just is something to really look at. The actual one I'm talking about right now, though, is the loneliness in a relationship when we feel lonely and we don't feel nourished. That's the thing. It's about nourishment, emotional nourishment. And when you feel lonely, you don't feel nourished. You don't feel like anyone cares about you, even though we know they do. And you feel alone. Being alone is fine, doing your own thing. And you can actually be alone and not feel lonely. But being in a relationship, like a love relationship, and feeling lonely is a dreadful feeling. It's because it's like having a wall between you, like an emotion. It feels like an emotional wall. But there are things you can do about it. And the first thing you need to do is to talk to your partner about this. To say to them, I'm feeling really lonely and that you're not emotionally present and we're not together enough. And this is really affecting me. The way to fix it is, first of all, you need to probably be emotionally connected more. And that means you need to talk to your partner about the fact that when you speak about emotional things, you need to have them respond to you emotionally. We come from two places when we speak to people. We come from our head, and that will be the problem solving and the fixing and the rational. And we also come from the heart, and that will be the emotional feeling and the connection and the understanding, where we really are there for them emotionally. And we're not trying to solve it, we're just trying to listen and speak to them about it in an emotional way. Your partner might be someone who comes from the head all the time, and you might want to encourage that person to start coming from the heart, to talk to you about this situation from the heart that you're talking, not from the head. Or you might be the one who always comes from the head, and your partner isn't feeling that you're coming from the heart enough. You'll know which way it goes, and sometimes it can go both ways, of course. The way to fix it is to start being more emotionally present, each of you. This means that you listen from your heart and you respond from your heart, and you talk about how you actually feel, not about how you actually think. Because that's why you're lonely, because they don't talk about feelings and they're emotionally absent. And some people are actually like this. They will be emotionally absent and I call it unavailable. And you'll find that sometimes they'll be unavailable all the time. Sometimes there's an on-off switch and they'll be available for a while, and then the switch switches off and they're not available. But if you're listening to this, I suspect you're the available one, and you're probably always available emotionally. You don't switch on and off. The other aspect is that people who are emotionally connected to others are usually empaths. We call them empaths, and they're people who feel what you feel and understand. And when you're talking to them, you can actually feel the healing that you have by talking to them, because they actually do understand and they don't make judgment or criticism or really try to fix it up. They just want to listen to you, and they empathize with you and they give you empathy. Try to get your partner to hear your heart, to hear what you're saying and respond from the heart. That's the best way. And to be able to talk about things emotionally. The other thing you might want to do is also talk about distance. If you're not physically in the same space a lot because of work or other activities, or the person's on their phone or computer a lot, you might need to stop that, because it's pretty hard to be emotionally connected to someone when they're not actually physically with you. And they can be in the same room, but their head's actually somewhere else and they're not actually present. So you want to try and get some quality time when you're actually physically together. I think the best way to do this is to go out, to go somewhere, to go to dinner, walk, go and just be together, sitting on the bench together with no distractions, and then you can talk about your emotional life more in those spaces, and there'll be less distraction. That's what I found. When you are living with an emotionally absent person, it's quite lonely, and it's a really hard thing to put your finger on to explain it to other people, but you feel like they're just not there. And that's because actually emotionally they're not there. And the only way you're going to stop being so lonely is to get connection. And that's what you want to work at, getting connection. You can also go to counselling or therapist or someone too, and they can help the person to express their feelings more. People don't usually express their feelings because they feel vulnerable and they don't want to be judged. And they also have probably come out of families where the families didn't actually talk about how they felt. It was very humdrum and practical stuff, but they never actually sat and spoke about how they felt. So you'll be part of that process if your partner's emotionally absent, to get them to open up, start to speak about how they feel. And that will actually be really good for their emotional health and ultimately their physical health, because when we bottle things up, it's not good, and we'll end up often getting migraines or backaches or stomach aches because you've bottled up the feeling, whereas if we'd actually been able to express it. In some families, we weren't encouraged to express things. We were shut down all the time, and then we learn how to shut down and we never learn how to open up again. It's not always that people mean to not be there for us. Sometimes they're a bit scared to be there emotionally for you, and you need to make sure it's a safe space for people to express themselves emotionally. This can be fixed. It's going to take a bit of work, and if you're the person who's the empath or the one who's very emotionally upfront, you'll probably find your partner will never be quite like you. But if you can get some connection that's stronger and stronger, and it can start to work more, and you spend more physical time together, you can actually make this work much better. Because the trouble with being lonely in the relationship is that you start looking out, and then you start to depend on other people to meet your emotional nourishment, because you're not getting nourished emotionally at home. So now you have to go out and talk to your girlfriend or your mum or counsellor or someone at work about how you feel, because your partner's not listening to how you feel or responding. And that's not a good thing. It's great to have other people to talk to, but you should be able to talk to your partner the best, really. That should be your emotional home that you can go to. Therefore, if you're having that trouble, I think you really need to have a good look at it and start working on it now. There's a connection that we have from the heart to the heart when we're in a love relationship like you are, and that's where you want to work from. That's where you want to be talking from heart to heart. And when you speak to them, encourage them to express themselves from their heart or respond to you from the heart. This isn't a head thing. This isn't talking from the head. It's a definitely emotional connection. And you will feel more nourished. And then hopefully they will become more open emotionally and feel safe to be able to say how they feel or cry if they're upset. And that will only be a good thing. Because it's the emotional connection that's actually the reason you're together. It's that you love each other a lot and you have like a strong emotional connection. So when that starts to wane or not work as well, you're really going to start having trouble in your relationship. It's going to impact on the love part, because being emotionally connected to somebody makes us feel loved, makes us feel nurtured. But when we're not so emotionally connected to them, we don't feel so loved and we don't feel so nurtured. It's that simple. So you want to try and work on this. I hope that you can get rid of the loneliness. It's a terrible feeling alone in a relationship. As you can tell, I know what it feels like, but it can be made better and it can be worked on. It's just something you really have to try and work together at solving and fixing in terms of on the emotional level. I think that if you are an empath and you're listening to this, your connection is very important in your life, emotional connection, and when you don't have it, you're going to really, really suffer from it, because it's something that you actually really will need. It's something that's part of who you are. If you're lucky enough to have married another empath or in a relationship with another empath, you won't have to worry about it. But see if you can fix this so you don't be so lonely. So it's two things: talking from the heart, and it's also being in the same physical space so you can be together. And I wish you well with this, and I hope you have a nice emotionally connected week, and I hope you can talk to your partner and not feel so lonely. Sending you lots of love and lots of light.